All right. So, let's talk math. So this is where we left off last feels like a long time ago, back in the middle of December. So it says Betty's Bakery calculates the total price D in dollars for C cupcakes using the equation D equals 2C. So let's go ahead and write down D equals 2C. So D equals 2C. Can you guys still all hear me okay? Like, I just want to make sure me starting the recording didn't mess anything up. All right, sweet. So guys, this has a trap door, and the trap door is one of your multiple choice options. One of the best ways that we can avoid the trap doors is by giving ourselves a bit more information, because it just says, what does the 2 mean in this situation? And every option you can think of is down here, including the bakery sells 2 types of cupcakes, which hopefully we could rule out. This has nothing to do with the style of cupcakes, right? Never up here did they talk about like what has frosting, what has sprinkles. So D equals 2C. We can fill in what's between the 2 and the C. What's holding them together? Yeah, unmute, shout it out. Yeah, multiplication. So go ahead and fill in the dot for the multiplication if you want. And what that tells me is I can build a table. Now, guys, I've got a few different colors here, and I'm going to talk about each one individually. But I just want you to take a moment and copy down my table. Excuse me. And you can write everything else I have up here as well if you want. Sorry, this word is both out here at the end of my purple. I just had to squeeze in the word both. You don't need to copy down all these arrows yet. If you can just copy down what I filled in on the table. When C, notice that my left-hand column is C, and my right-hand column is D. When C is 1, D is 2. When C, the cupcakes, is 2, D is 4. Now you might wonder, how am I getting these values, right? I'm doing the math. So I'm plugging in values for C, like C equals 1, C equals 2, C equals 3. These values on the left-hand column, I'm plugging in and getting D by doing the multiplication. So I'm doing 2 times whatever I plugged in for C, and I get the D. So guys, when C is 5, what will D be? When C is 5, when I get 5 cupcakes. Yeah, it'll be $10. So we can say dollars, and I think that's actually an A. I was writing really fast this morning. I think dollars is A. Now it just looks like gibberish. Dollars depends on cupcakes. Now, guys, the trap door is B. B's wrong. But it's a trap door that's really easy to fall into because the bakery sells 2 cupcakes for $1. Check this out. Look at my screen, please, in case you're not right now. They tell us 1D equals 2C. And in your brain, it's really easy to accidentally think $1 is 2 cupcakes. That is not correct. It's just easy to think that because D equals 2C. What this is telling us is the cost, the dollars, will be 2 times the number of cupcakes. Sometimes I have to rewrite equations using different symbols to kind of make it sink in my brain. The cost, the D, the dollars, I should stop saying cost, the dollars equals 2 times the number of cupcakes. So I'm going to put the hashtag symbol because that really means numbers. So the other thing that we can see, guys, if I triple the number of cupcakes I buy, or if I quadruple, I really like that word, quadruple means to multiply by 4. If I do anything on the left-hand side to the number of cupcakes, the same thing happens on the right-hand side to the dollars, right? So if I triple the number of cupcakes, I triple the cost. If I quadruple the number of cupcakes, I quadruple the final cost in dollars. So that's what this note right here means, is any multiplication happens to both. If I multiply the number of cupcakes, I also multiply the price. So I want you to take a moment to read this problem and look at the multiple choice options. Remember, there's a trap door, but what does this table tell us? What do we think? Take a moment. Anyone want to take a guess at which one of these options would be correct for us? Yeah, you're really close. C's just missing a word. So the correct answer here is going to be A, because this over here is not number of audiobooks, but length. So be really careful. The length of completed time is 1, when the working time, like the time he spent working, is 6.5. So, guys, I'm sure that you either watch TV or watch YouTube videos or listen to podcasts or something that someone created. Almost always, you take longer to create the thing than it ends up being. So when you work on a paper for school, normally it gets longer and then you like reduce it back down, you like trim it. So when you're working on an audiobook, it takes a lot longer to record it than it actually ends up being. So what this is saying is for one completed hour, it takes him 6.5 hours working. The trap door is then complete 6.5 audiobooks in an hour. That'd be like reading it backwards, right? So be careful. They're going to try to trap you in this backward situation, which leads us to this. Please write down in your notes E equals 10H. And then label it that E is how much he earns, like dollars. H is how much Carrie works. Hours spent working. I am going to break us into 2 breakout rooms and have us chat about this really quickly. So how many dollars does Carrie earn per hour? And at that rate, how many hours does it take to earn $1? Interesting. So see if you can even just figure out the first question. I'm only going to have you guys in the room for like a minute. Just go chat about what you think this means. E, the earning, is 10 times H. Let's do recreate. Try that. And man, I wish it didn't do this. I am actually going to move one of you so that we can split up. So I'm going to have Miss Meyer just go kind of listen in on room 2, and I'm going to go listen in on room 1. All right? So let's go see what we think E equals 10H means. What do you guys think? Douglas, I'm going to pick on you first since you're all blurry. What are you thinking here? Well, what are you thinking? What's in your head? Just say it out loud instead of keeping it in your head. What do you think the 10 means in this problem? Grace, what are you thinking? Sorry, I gotta turn my speakers up. Actually, I gotta switch what I'm... You wanna try again on that? I just couldn't hear you. Yeah, I think my internet is having issues here. I don't know if you guys heard. There's no internet at school, so we're all stuck at home. I think what you said is right. If we make a table out of this situation and start plugging in values for H, we can find more values for E. So I'm actually going to bring all of our rooms back together. So guys, one suggestion I wanted to make sure that we talked about is when we go to make a table, because that's what we're going to do here. When we go to make a table, the variable that we put on the left doesn't really matter, but there is like, I have a preference. The variable that is doing math, right? E is over here alone. It's not doing anything, but H is doing math. Put that variable on the left-hand side. It will make your life easier. So everyone make a table with H on the left and E on the right. I'm going to make another one. So H is hours worked. And they ask us how many dollars does Carrie earn per hour? Per hour means 1. Right? So if I plug in 1 for H, what's 10 times 1? Yeah. So that tells us Carrie earns $10 for every 1 hour worked. If we want to fill in more of the table, we could fill in for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. Or we could start to make the table really big. But then they ask us a weird question. So you can copy down this table. It's all of these are just times 10. So what this tells us is 10 is our constant of proportionality, right? Because this is times 10. It's always times 10. 10 is our constant of proportionality. But then they ask us this weird question. At that rate, how many hours does it take Carrie to earn $1? $1 is the right-hand side of our table, right? $1 there. So, $1. If we set up $1, we have like math to solve. So to solve for $1, we literally have to plug in 1 for E. And when I plug in 1 for E, guys, go ahead and write this down. We get 1 equals 10 times H. We got to figure out what the H is here. But if we plug in 1 for E, that's tougher than plugging in 1 for H. When we plugged in 1 for H, we just got 10. Right? That was easy. Or 2 for H would get 20. 3 for H would get 30. 4 for H would get 40. That's easy. But when we plug in 1 for E, we have to divide on both sides to get the H by itself. So be careful. The trap door is you think you just need to multiply. We actually have a division that we need to do. So where it's $10 per hour, to make $1, check this out. It's the reciprocal. And if you've done your Khan Academy practice already, you may have noticed this with these problems. When they switch around what they're asking us, the answer becomes the reciprocal. 1 over 10, 10 over 1. So for 1 hour, sorry, I should scooch this down so you can still see the headers. 1 hour is $10 earned. But $1 is 1/10 of an hour. always ask yourself, does it make sense? Because if you got 1/10 of a dollar for working an hour, that would be really low pay, right? So if we tried to answer this first one and you got an answer of 1/10. Now, does anyone see the word, at least up here in the first question, that we normally try to like make alert us of something? It's a really small word, but it tells us something really important. How many dollars does Carrie earn per hour? Let's look at another question, and I think that word might be all the more important here. Go ahead and check this out and write down the important information. So write down 6 liters of gasoline to drive 48 kilometers. We should probably write down both of those numbers. Go and write down 6 liters for 48 kilometers. Anyone want to venture a guess? What is that word? It's in the first question here also, and it's not in the second one, but we can actually make it be in the second one. They tell us 6 liters for 48 kilometers. They ask us how many Go and write down how many kilometers per liter. Guys, that really important word is per. Who can remember what per tells us to do?
Divide?
Yeah, it's divide, right? Per tells us divide. So when they ask us how many kilometers per liter, what they want us to set up is the number of kilometers divided by the number of liters. So we need to fill in the numbers. Okay, well, how many kilometers? 48 kilometers divided by how many liters?
6 liters.
Yeah. And we do that, Matt, like literally grab your calculator because it's telling us to divide. When it says per, it tells us to divide. So 48 divided by 6, what do we get? Yeah. Thank you. I can tell Grace has her calculator today or knows what 48 divided by 6 is. It's 8, and our label comes from the question. It's kilometers per liter. So kilometers per liter. Guys, the second question here is asking the same thing in the reverse order. At that rate, how many liters does it take to drive 1 kilometers? What that's actually asking, I'm going to call this part A and then the other one part B. What part B is actually asking is how many liters, right? How many liters per, they don't directly say it, but that's what they're asking is how many liters per 1 kilometer. And guys, here's the trick that people don't realize. Forget about the 1 for a moment. Just look at liters per kilometers. Set up liters divided by kilometers and use the numbers you have. Okay, we have 6 liters, so 6 would go on top. 48 kilometers. What is 6 divided by 48? It's actually 1/8 or 0.125. Our label, again, comes from the problem, liters divided by kilometers. So liters per kilometer. And that gives us the unit rate answer of liters per 1 kilometer. When we do the division, we get the unit rate answer. So guys, always look for the per. The note, the like alert that I would put in your notes there is like, look for the word per. It tells you to divide, and it tells you the order to divide. Questions? I really cannot wait to be back in person with you guys. Tired of teaching online. It's boring. It's way better to have you guys at school. Try this one on your own. To answer both of those questions, how much do raisins cost per ounce? And how many raisins can be bought for $1? Write down the important information. Write down the question. Pay attention to what per tells you to do. OZ is the abbreviation for ounces. What's going to be the order of division for part A here to get the cost per ounce?
5 divided by 4.
Careful, it's cost divided by ounces.
So 4 divided by 5.
It's 4 divided by 5. And you can set it up horizontally, or you could set it up $4 divided by 5 ounces. You can set it up vertically. These are the same. Either way, the answer we actually get is 80 cents. Right? 0.80. So down here, ounces per dollar, we have to set up ounces first. So here's the 5 ounces divided by however many dollars you're given. And then after we do the division, we'll get the answer for $1. So we could also set this up 5 over 4 if we wanted. Now be careful, this is not dollars. What is the 1.25? What's our label on this? Yeah, Aiden, you just unmuted. You were about to say it, but then I think Grace hopped in and said it. Ounces per, and now it actually is the $1 because we did the division. So this is ounces per $1. After you do the division, you get the unit rate answer. So this is 80 cents per 1 ounce. The unit rate answer up there for 1 ounce. And part B is asking us, though, for $1. So whether we want to know 1 ounce or $1 changes the order we divide in. So guys, this is calculator work. I'm expecting that you use a calculator to make your life easier. Questions? I forget. Yeah, this is where this starts to get real interesting. Please write down this equation, E equals 17 over 20 times D. This was the exchange rate. I'm not sure that this is the exchange rate now. It's probably a little outdated. The thing we want to make sure when we write down these equations, guys, is that we understand what it's saying. So, what does E mean here? What is it representing? Yeah, the amount of euros. So the amount of euros, if I write this out, will equal this number, 17 over 20, times, what's the D represent? Dollars. So guys, this is like if you were traveling, you had a certain amount of American dollars, and you wanted to figure out how many euros could you get, like in exchange. So when they ask us how many euros have the same value as $1 US, well guys, now we don't have numbers to divide with, right? Because we've just been given this equation. So in part A, what they ask us for is euros for $1 US. So what this actually means is, what is E when D is 1? Right, you have to like make sense of the problem. What is it asking us? How many euros do we get? How many euros have the same value as $1 US? So we can plug in, okay, so if D is 1, then our equation becomes E equals 17 over 20 times 1. And what that gets is, well, just 17 over 20. Which, if I want my answer as a decimal, because I know some of you guys like that better, 0.85. So you get 0.85 euros for $1 US. I think that, because normally kids ask me, I think the symbol for euro is that. It's like a weird looking E, but don't quote me. I forget. Like, we could Google it real fast, but... But guys, part B flips the question around. So I'm going to draw a little squiggly line. Part B, actually I'm going to change colors. B says, how many dollars for €1? Right? Read the problem up there. How many US dollars have the same value as €1? So what this means is, if E equals 1, what is D? So we set up our equation. But now, this gets annoying. When we plug in 1 for E, darn. Can anyone remember what we can do to turn a fraction into a 1. We want to make this a 1. What could we do? What's that? We do want to get a giant 1. And the way to get a giant 1 is we're going to have to multiply. I'm going to rewrite this with a little bit of space to do my work. So guys, what we have is 17/20 times d. To make this into a giant 1, we multiply with the reciprocal. So if I do it on this side, we also have to do it on this side. And don't make it a decimal if we don't need to. So 20/17 times 1. Times 1 doesn't do anything, right? So our answer is 20/17. Guys, here's the trick that I showed you earlier that still applies. E up here, this E that we solved for, this was 17/20. Notice how this is 20/17. We just flip it. They're reciprocal values. Because when we turn around the order of the question, right, we flipped around what we're asking, we flip around our answer. We get the reciprocal answer. So when you get these questions where they completely turn around what they're asking you, we can literally just use the reciprocal. Up here, E was 17/20, which this is why I say don't make it a decimal. Down here, if we look at the decimal value of this, oh, it's going to be gross, I think. Yeah, this is 1.176470588, and it probably keeps going. This is a gross number. Don't use the decimals if you don't have to. 20/17 is way nicer. I forget if I have another one of these. I do not. So, yeah, we got a couple minutes left. This is further than I made it with the other class, but I'd like us to go ahead and start talking about these, so this is where we can pick up on Wednesday. Go ahead and read this problem and see if you can decide which of these answers would be correct. Pay attention to the labels on the axes. And actually, that's going to be a good thing to write down as a reminder. Go ahead, guys, sketch a graph. This is where we'll end. So this is the last thing I'm going to have you do today. Sketch a graph in your notes, and if you're using graph paper, we should be able to count up 4.5. And I'm going to use a ruler just to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to connect to this line. The biggest thing that I want you to have is the point that we can write down. So this point is at 1, 4.5. That's what we're going to talk about here. Go ahead and label our axes to match. Sorry, I can't write at the top of my paper very well. So we have eggs and days. But the other thing I want us to label on our axes is this axis is our x-axis. This axis, the vertical axis, is our y-axis. And when we look at an ordered pair, they're always in X, Y order. They're like an alphabetical order. So what this point is telling us, if we put the labels on it, is 1, what's our X value? Is X days or eggs? What's our X here? Days, right? So our X value, the first number, is 1 day. We can just keep that singular. And the 4.5 then relates to, what's the y-axis? What's the label there? Eggs. So 1 day, 4.5 eggs, that tells us 4.5 eggs for each 1 day. Or for every 1 day, we could say. So we look at the graph, we look at the labels from the axes, and we pull from the point and give labels to our numbers. Any questions on this? Because we're going to do one more and then I'm going to get you out of here. Try this. Now this point is 116. You might want to jot this down because it might be part of your homework. So in this new graph, look at the multiple choice options they give you up there. What is the X label? Like that 1, the first number that we get, what is the label of the X-axis here? What's the label of the X? Aiden? Scarves, right? Yeah, I thought it looked like you answered, but I couldn't hear you. 1, and we could just say scarf, right? Because 1 would just be scarf. But 1 scarves, what is the label of the y-axis? That goes with the 16. Hours. So it's 1 scarf and 16 hours. So what that means is Ted spent 16 hours knitting 1 scarf. So 16 hours per, or for every, 1 scarf. All right, we can do one more, but I already committed that I would get you guys out of here. So this is where we're going to pick up on Wednesday. I'm going to show one more. You don't have to answer it on your own if you don't want. But if we look here, this is where we're going to then take this, is answering these questions. Pay attention to the order they ask the questions in. So, if you go ahead and answer these questions in Khan Academy, please pay attention. Read really carefully. Adam did a really good job earlier of identifying, oh yeah, I just turn it around then. Like, be careful. Read which comes first, right? Like, how many cups of popcorn does he use per cup of cereal versus how many cups of cereal per cup of popcorn. The order changes. That's where that reciprocal stuff comes in. With that, that's all the time that I have. So guys, have a wonderful day. Welcome back. We got one more week of this when we'll be at school together. We got Discovery Days. A lot of better stuff is coming up. All right. Thanks for coming. Have a great day, guys.